What's up, guys? It's Luke here, back with episode 5 of the Guinea Pig Project. So guys, this video was actually supposed to come out last week, so if you were anticipating that and it never came for you, let me take the time right now to apologize. I ran into some technical difficulties, some errors of my own, and it all kind of culminated in me just deciding that I would be better off, you would be better off in me taking my time, not just throwing something out there haphazardly and just postponing it and getting it out this week instead. Also, let me say a huge congratulations to those of you who have been following along and who have stuck with the project thus far. You are now officially past the 21-day mark when something becomes a habit, and as of today, you are officially at 1 full month of exercising for at least 30 minutes at least 3 times a week. So guys, I don't know about you, but I am feeling good. I finally feel like this is back to just being part of my lifestyle. I feel like it's manageable. I feel like it's something that I can stick with for the long term. And even though today officially marks the end of the project, guys, a couple of weeks ago, I promised you a video about gaining weight and gaining muscle if that's your goal. So without further ado, let's get into that. Guys, this is something I'm excited to be talking about today because as somebody who is naturally rather skinny, my goal in the gym has always been to put on weight. Now there's good news and bad news here. The bad news is it doesn't show. I'm pretty close to the weight that I naturally sit at, which is rather skinny. While I've done this a number of times and while I've done it successfully a number of times, I have not been consistent enough in the gym to keep that weight on. It's been probably half a dozen times that I've put on a good solid 5 to 10 pounds, been looking good, been feeling good, only for me to fall out of grace with my exercise program and eventually start back at square one again. But the good news is I've done this a number of times, probably half a dozen times, and I've done it rather successfully. So I really feel like I have some good practical advice that I can pass on with confidence. So guys, even if your goal is to gain weight and put on muscle, I would encourage that you go back and watch my video about losing weight for the simple fact that in this video we're going to be talking about some concepts that might not be quite surface level knowledge, and that since I went over them in the last video, I'm not going to go into as much detail about. So guys, with that said, one of the things that we talked about in my video about losing weight and that we're also going to be talking about in this video is your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. That is the number of calories that you're burning each day. Now we talked about how for the purposes of losing weight, you're going to want to be in what's called a caloric deficit. You're going to want to be eating fewer calories than what you're burning each day. And when it comes to gaining weight, you're going to want to do the opposite. You're going to want to be in what's called a caloric surplus, meaning that you're eating more calories than you're burning each day. Also, in that last video, I talked about a website that I found real quick. It was the first thing that came up on Google, but I do think it can be a very helpful resource. It's called tdeecalculator.net. This is going to take into account a variety of factors related to you. Your age, your weight, your height, how active you are, what your goal is, gain weight, lose weight, stay the same weight. And from there, it's going to have recommendations for you on how to structure your diet in order to achieve your specific goal. And if your goal is to put on weight, there's really 2 widely talked about ways to do that: a clean or a lean bulk or a dirty bulk. In my experience and from everything that I've read and listened to, a good goal is to be trying to take in about 10 to 20% more calories than you burn each day. A lean bulk is going to involve you putting on very little in the way of body fat, whereas a dirty bulk, you're just going to put on mass. And some of it's going to be good and some of it's going to be bad, and usually you try to strip away the bad after the fact. And just to be clear, by good I mean muscle, and by bad I mean body fat. So I've done both of these, and in my experience they both have their benefits and they both have their drawbacks. The benefits of a lean bulk include the fact that, like I said, you're not going to put on a whole lot in the way of fat. You're going to be relatively lean all the way through. Now that's going to require you to eat rather healthy food, which is great from a health standpoint. I will say I don't know if I've ever felt better in terms of my energy levels, both in the gym and in my day to day life, than when I was lean bulking. You're eating a lot of food, and a lot of it is from quite nutritious sources. That is the nature of a lean bulk. The drawbacks of that, however, were one, I felt like I was constantly cooking. I have multiple friends who are doing this right now, and they meal prep sometimes multiple times a week. If you're not one to want to meal prep or eat leftovers, may not be for you. It's also going to be much more restrictive. If you're doing this and you're sticking to it, you can't just go out and have that milkshake or that burger or those fries. So for some people, it's very hard to adhere to. The dirty bulk, on the other hand, is pretty much what it sounds like. You are able to eat more or less whatever you want. I've done this as well, and I will say it's a lot easier to adhere to. It's a lot easier to eat in a caloric surplus, but you do have to monitor what you're putting in your body to some extent. Because if you're just putting nonstop junk food in your body, there are some serious health issues that can arise from that as well. And guys, the last thing when it comes to your diet that I want to mention, and I probably should have mentioned it in last week's video as well, is macronutrients. If you're not familiar with what macronutrients are, those are your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fat. And they are essential to know and understand if you do plan on counting your calories. So basically, each gram of protein is going to be 4 calories. Each gram of carbohydrates is going to be 4 calories. And each gram of fat is going to be 9 calories. And guys, when we're trying to build muscle, something that is going to be imperative to keep an eye on is your protein intake. The general rule of thumb here is that if you're trying to gain muscle, if you're trying to bulk up, you want to be eating anywhere from 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. After you've figured out your protein intake for the day, a good rule of thumb is to get about 20% of your daily calories from calories coming from fats, preferably healthy sources of fat, and allot the remainder of your daily caloric intake to carbohydrates. So now, having touched on a lot of the dietary stuff when it comes to gaining muscle, let's talk about what you're doing in the gym. Guys, just like last week when I said that there's a stigma around losing weight of doing cardio, 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 I think there's a stigma around putting on muscle of not doing cardio at all. And I even used to be one of those people. It's true that when you're doing cardio, you're essentially burning calories, which is the opposite of what you want to be doing if you're trying to eat in a caloric surplus. For someone like myself who's always had trouble putting on weight, the last thing that I wanted to do was burn excess calories. Now, there's no debate that if you're trying to build muscle, you want to be lifting weights, and you want to be lifting weights regularly. But as of recent, almost everything that I've read, as well as my own personal experience, points to 2 to 3 light cardio sessions per week being very beneficial when it comes to building muscle. This is because cardio is going to spur the circulation of oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to the muscles that you've recently broken down during your workouts and effectively help them heal. So my recommendation, don't skimp out on the cardio. And guys, the last thing that's going to be huge in terms of how well you perform in the gym, how well you recover, as well as the likelihood that you put on more muscle rather than fat, is going to be your sleep. So we talked about sleep last week as well when it came to losing weight, but for different reasons. Now, I mentioned this last week, but these statistics are coming from a Joe Rogan podcast with Matthew Walker, who is a sleep expert. It really changed the way that I look at sleep, and some of these statistics are just insane, guys. For example, if you're getting 6 hours or less of sleep, your time to physical exhaustion drops by almost a third. So in terms of performance in the gym and quality of your workouts, your workout is only going to be about 2/3 as good as it could be if you were getting sufficient sleep. Lactic acid, which accumulates in your muscles when they get fatigued, builds up quicker the less sleep you get. The ability of your lungs to expel carbon dioxide and take in oxygen decreases the less sleep you get. Peak muscle strength, vertical jump height, and sprint speed all directly correlate with how much a person sleeps on average. And when it came to athletes, there was a direct relationship between how much sleep they got and their rate of injury. So the more sleep you get, the more protected you are. So guys, that's what I've got for you in terms of strategies of how to put on muscle and put on weight. A quick recap, we talked about understanding your macronutrients and how to structure those to some degree. We talked about your TDEE and eating in a caloric surplus. So you're going to want to eat about 10 to 20% more calories than you're burning each day based on your own calculations. You're definitely going to want to focus on weightlifting, but don't discount cardio. About 2 to 3 sessions of light cardio per week can be very beneficial when it comes to building muscle. You're going to want to make sure that your protein intake is probably right around 1 gram per pound of body weight. And guys, don't slack on your sleep for so many reasons. You're going to be more likely to build muscle and less likely to put on fat from those extra calories that you're taking in. You're going to have more endurance when it comes to your workouts, and you're going to be more protected from injury the more recovered that you are. So I hope you found these tips helpful. I hope they help you achieve your goals. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more helpful content, and make sure to share this video if you think it could help somebody else. That's all I've got for you guys today. Cheers.